The energy crisis in Cuba is getting worse and worse as pressure from the U.S. on the Communist Party leadership intensifies there. In fact, some experts warn that the country may be on the verge of an economic collapse. And earlier this week, President Trump warned of imminent action against the communist nation's government. And he even floated the suggestion of taking, and that's in quotes, taking Cuba. So, after the capture of Venezuelan President Maduro in January, there's no doubt that the flow of oil to Cuba was stopped. And since then, there have been multiple outages, probably the worst being earlier this week when some 10 million people there lost power. So why does President Trump want Cuba? And where is all of this headed? Well, joining me now to discuss this and more is Washington Stand writer Yoe Suárez, who was exiled from Cuba because of his investigative reporting. He was reporting on themes like torture and political prisoners and government blacklist and freedom of expression, freedom of conscience, those type of things, and was exiled as a result. Yoe, welcome back to Washington Watch. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so what do you make of the current crisis and the current economic struggle, the situation in Cuba?
Well, the country has collapsed. We have no power there. People don't have medicines. People don't have food, basically. And everything that comes in the modern world with a shortage of power, for instance, you have food rotten in the fridges. You have people without the ability to pump water to their houses. It's just insane. And that's a logical conclusion of socialism. It's this concentration of power in a state that is inefficient and that is really corrupt, like the state in Cuba, run by the Castro family for more than 70 years now, for almost 70 years now.
Wow, it sounds like an absolutely horrible and horrifying situation. There are some reports that the U.S. and Cuba are in talks. What are those talks about? Do you have any idea? And what would you think that President Trump wants to come out of those talks?
Well, we have to understand, first of all, that the architect of foreign policy, obviously with Donald Trump, is Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio has a Cuban heritage. He understands that regime. He understands the evil of socialism. He was part of a community in Miami, in Florida, where there are a lot of exiles, people who have terrible stories. So he understands that socialism is a threat also for the U.S., for the national security, because they are hosting all the evil people that wants to hurt Americans. For instance, they are hosting Iranians. They are hosting Chinese radar bases there. They are hosting Hezbollah, Hamas, all those terrible groups that wants to hurt America. So I think what Trump wants to achieve is to have a more friendly regime or government in Cuba. I think what a lot of Cubans want here in exile and there in Cuba, and I think Marco Rubio is part of that sentiment. We want a real democracy. We want Cuba to be a beacon of freedom and a beacon of prosperity in the Caribbean area, as it was before the Communist Revolution in 1959. So I think it's in the national interest of the U.S. to have a better neighbor. And to have a neighborhood that is more inclined to be friendly with the U.S. and with the national interests of the U.S.
Two more quick questions for you, and that was extremely well said. Thank you for that. President Trump has threatened imminent action against Cuba's government. Number one question, what do you think that might look like? Secondly, what is the condition of the church right now in Cuba?
Well, for your first question, I can tell you I don't think the Cuban regime is going to fall down like it happened in Venezuela with Maduro. I don't think the Trump administration will need this spectacular operation to extract Raul Castro, who is more than 90 years old now. I think the regime is smart enough to understand we can't bluff like Maduro did. We can't mess around with Trump, with the Trump administration, and they know they are a paper tiger right now, the regime.
Okay.
All the technique that they have, all the airplanes, all the tanks are from the Soviet era. So I think what Trump is going to try to do is put more pressure over to the regime in order to get a deal. And the deal is probably
okay. Real quickly, let me stop right there. We've got about 30 seconds. What is the role and the condition of the church in Cuba?
The church right now is providing humanitarian aid for all Cubans, and the church is also raising their voices. There are young people in Cuba doing a great job communicating the ideas of freedom in the island, and they are suffering persecution right now, like Ana Benzi or Carlos David Fuentes y Resuelo. So a lot of people doing brave stuff inside of Cuba. Pray for the Cuban church.
Amen. Thank you so much, Washington Stand writer Yoe Suárez. Excellent job bringing us an update as to what's happening in Cuba. We appreciate it so much.